Hola, amigos. It's been a long time since I've rapped at you, to quote Jim Anchower from The Onion. Welcome to video log installment number 3. It's January 12th, and I have been struggling with the movie, caught up in a lot of details, trying to do technological things, just to see if I could do them. I used a program called Handbrake to rip DVD, copyrighted DVDs for personal use only, of course. There's a little section that you'll see in the story that I used. I had thought about rewriting the story again as I did for the introduction section, but in the end, the perfect was the enemy of the good. I couldn't think of a way to rewrite it, and there was some footage that I thought I had that I was going to use that I haven't been able to find. So I decided I just need to try and crank something out. So I went back to my original storyboarded version of it, and I had already cut it up into a bunch of pieces. I cut it up into smaller pieces. Already I've noticed though, over about 2.5 minutes, my iMovie really starts to struggle. Some of the frames are dropping and having simultaneous audio going with video. The audio sounds fine, but the video's dropping some frames. It's interesting. Already pushing it to its limits in a pretty short movie. But hopefully it will be evident how I am trying to do it. I noticed that I was not very happy with my story. I breathe a lot. I don't present it in a way that's good for video. So trying to cut down my own speech and then use the very few images that I have for the story. I have the actual birth certificate. I have 2 photographs that were taken back in 1943 and 2 that were taken just last year. All of this will make sense when you see the footage. So the clip, pretty much without any further ado, I will show you. Of course, I will have to confront at some point how I merge this clip with the other introductory clip. In fact, I'm going to probably want to rewrite both of them, but it's just to get an idea of how this thing could look. And there's certainly some shots that I think do work in this, but I'll let you be the judge of that. Enjoy the core coincidence part of Coincidence 3780. I'd welcome any comments that you might have, and a special shout out to my #1 subscriber, DTK, Darren Troy Kumasawa. I was on the corner of 64th Street and 39th Avenue, right above the deli, and you could look out and you could see the subway going by. It was the elevated, the number 7 train. We were at an express stop, 61st Street, Woodside Express.
Well, it ain't much, but it's home.
How often does the train go by?
So often you won't even notice it.
A couple weeks later, after we'd been in there, I gave my dad a call to say, "You want to come over?" He said, "Cool, where you live?" I said, 64th Street in Woodside. "Really? My uncle used to live on 64th Street in Woodside. And I think my grandfather used to live on 64th Street in Woodside." So he comes over, and we walk along 64th Street past our building, walk about 3, 4, 5, 6 houses down, and he says, "That's where Uncle Eddie used to live. Uncle Eddie used to live right in that house. I remember that house." When I was a kid, actually, I stayed on this block at my grandfather's house. My grandfather's house is closer to where you were, but I don't remember what one it was. So maybe a month later, I'm over at my dad's apartment, and I say, "Hey, Dad, did you ever figure out where your grandfather lived?" And he said, "No, but you know what we can do? We can look at this death certificate. Hold on just a second." And he runs into another room, and he rifles through some files, and he comes back out with the death certificate. And I look at the death certificate. It's for his grandfather, my great-grandfather, Edward Starger, and it's got the date in 1949 that he died. and it had his job. He was a signalman for the Long Island Railroad, and it had his address. And the address was 3780 64th Street. 3780 64th Street. I'm looking at this, I'm staring at it, and I'm saying I recognize that. And the reason why I recognized it was that was the address I was living at. My great-grandfather was living and died in the building that I was living in at that moment in 2000, 51 years later. He ended up pulling out some pictures of his mother and him. And it was pictures from when he was 8 months old in 1943. And I look at it, I look at the buildings, and I can realize that that picture was taken in front of our building. It was taken in front of where the deli is now, right by the front door. It was the buildings that I looked out from my window, from our living room. We could see those two buildings that are in the background of those two pictures. Of course, after Leo was born, Jessica and our son, we took simulations of the same photo when Leo was about the same age.